Hi, I'm Florence Theriault from Theriault of Annapolis, Maryland. I've been cataloging and researching and describing dolls for many of you for over 40 years, and I have some dolls from a wonderful upcoming book that we've just published for our auction we'll be having, featuring wonderful bisque dolls with sculpted hair from the collections of Mildred Adkins and Mary Young, and I'd like to share some of those rarities with you now. In the 1870s in Germany, a spectacular group of bisque dolls made with sculpted hair, bodices, and wonderful decorations were being created. Also, in another form of art, in 1873, the first performance of the very famous music, Variations on a Theme, was performed. I think that theme is a great motif to use for a discussion of these wonderful bisque dolls, because they are indeed, in most cases, variations on a common theme. So let's take a ramble now through history and look at some of these wonderful dolls that were created at the time and show their differences, their similarities, what makes some rare, what makes them really precious and wonderful, and cause us all to wonder, in every case, how did these incredibly fragile and spectacular dolls survive for collectors today? Collect the German bisque ladies and children of the 1870s and 1880s. We have so much variety to choose from. They were made with sculpted hair, with sculpted bodices, with or without glass eyes, with or without swivel neck, in so many variations, and very often the very same hairstyle on these dolls can be found in simple variations. One of the things you can almost do when you're collecting these dolls, you can almost kind of do a checklist of different rarity factors that make one more precious than another of a comparable kind. For example, brown hair is very, very rare, and in the dolls I'm going to be showing you today, actually you'll see an abundance of brown hair, but that's because the collection that I'm privileged to be working with you on today, the woman collected great rarities, and so many of her dolls do have the brown hair. Now, the first one I'm going to show you is a very, very lovely lady, and I'm going to slowly turn her so you can see her all the way around. It's my great regret when we do our catalogs that they can't be almost moving parts as you see them, so you could see the head on these dolls, because in many cases they're equally as beautiful from the back as from the front. And please look at this hair, because I want to show you a detail. I want to talk to you about a little secret on this doll. You turn it more, you see the ringlet curls that are tumbling. They're gathered at the back. They're pulled away from the face, allowing her to have sculpted ears, which was an extra point of sculpting that had to be done in the doll. And please look, you're going to watch all of these points. I'll keep bringing them up to you over and over again. But the stippling or the feathering of the detail around her forehead is very, very important. On the back of her hair, this wonderful cluster of curls. This doll was made in so many variations, and let me count them off for you. Mostly it appears with brown hair, it is true, but it was also made with glass eyes or painted eyes. It was made with a turning swivel head, or it was made with a straight shoulder plate as this. And it was made with a cluster of curls that could be removed. I'm not exactly sure what the purpose was. Evidently, you could then put a cap on your doll, or you could put flowers at the back of her hair, but it allowed you to have more variation for the doll. So all of these variations on a theme you find within this one particular doll. And now we have another very, very elegant lady with, again, wonderfully sculpted and designed brown hair, combed away from the head with what we would call comb marks, like it's not just a smooth, but you actually see definition of where an actual person's hair might be combed. And I want you to look, I'm going to show you the top of her head, how the sculpting. It's important when you look at these dolls that you look at them all the way around, the top, the sides, the back. And now look at the back. This is absolutely wonderful, rolled into this captured curl, but then right at the nape of her neck, all of these wonderful little ringlets that are tendrils, I guess you'd call them, that are kind of gathered at the bottom of her neck. Absolutely wonderful style. A lot of the sculpting was enhanced by doing this decorative glaze over the top as well. And now we're going to stay with another beautiful lady with brown hair once again, and you'll see the back of her hair. It'll absolutely delight you. But notice again, with this hairstyle, she has only partially sculpted ears. but enough so they can be pierced, so earrings could be added if the owner so desired. In this case, in addition to having the very fancy sculpted hair, we now start to see the other variation, the ribbon coming around her neck, and in this case, please note that darker pink and soft pink color striping, because you're going to see that appear over in several other examples I'm showing you. And then this wonderful blue medallion that is hanging from her scarf, a very, very lovely decoration. Now, please watch as we turn this doll around and you see, first of all, on the top of her head, the coiled hair, gracefully looped around and coiled, and then the curls falling onto her back shoulders. You've seen them at the front, falling onto her front shoulders and covering the scarf. And if you notice, that goes completely around the back. It's an absolutely wonderful detail of decoration on this doll. When these wonderful collections come into our office, I have the privilege of unpacking them. It's really interesting because sometimes you'll see a doll and you will undo her wrapping and you look at it and say, oh, she's very pretty, but you don't really get the whole concept of that doll until you see the whole thing. And before I show you, I want to point out to you that now we've moved away from the brown hair momentarily into this very, very rich black hair, which is also extremely rare to find in these early Bisque dolls. And now watch this. You can see her beautiful face, and she has a wonderful elongated throat, very, very well-defined throat, and slightly modeled bosom, which is very nice. Very luxury touches being done in these dolls. But now watch as we turn, and you see her from the side, first of all. You can see the little curls coming down in front of her ears. You see the very elaborate looping of curls at the side. And now, watch the back. And I hope the camera is able to pick up all of the incredible details of this hair, because the hair has been brought back and captured into a snood, which is so tiny in its definition, little lace interwoven designs all over with a beaded edge around the back. And this woman obviously has very long hair, because when it is captured, if you look at it again in the profile, you will see how very, very large the captured chignon is at the back. Beautiful feathering around the sides of the face, and a wonderful, wonderful, very tentative and gentle smile. Very rare model. And continuing on our notion of variations on a theme, this is one of the more popular models that was made in the 1870 period, and again noting that it represents an adult lady. There's a lot of talk about, did any of these dolls represent particular historical characters like Empress Eugenie, Jenny Lind, famous performers or royalty of the 19th century. And I think that unless we actually found documentation that said that this company made a doll sculpted after a particular person, what we need to realize is that anytime royalty or a theatrical person had a costume or a hairstyle that was very, very significant to them, that would tend to become popular throughout the whole country, through all social classes, and be copied and hence be made into dolls. And here we have two wonderful examples, variation on a theme. You can see their long, slender faces, and when you turn both of them, you see that they have that they're going to have a back of a hair snood, and let me show you that first, with a green definition of the lacing on the snood, and then on the sides they're going to have feathers and ribbons and gold tassels, and there'll be variation in the color of these, and there will also be variation in the decoration. For example, the smaller lady here has a very, very fine luster overcoat on her snood, but two very good examples. And you find these in so many different sizes and so many different variations of the decoration. Remember that although the German makers of the Bisque dolls with sculpted hair, and by the way, we need a new name for these dolls. Over the years, they've been called Parian dolls. And I know it's everybody, when you say a Parian doll, they kind of know what you mean. It's a misnomer. It's not a Parian. It is a Bisque. And I kind of refer to them as a Bisque doll with sculpted hair, which is how many words? 4 or 5 words. And we need a better phrase than that, too. So if anybody can come up with a great general name to describe these dolls, I would be real happy. Let me know. At any rate, with many of them, the German makers were just starting to feel their way into getting good design and good sculpture, and many of them have very, very flat planes on their face. The eyes, for example, are more like simply painted rather than having any definition at all. Once in a while, you find a treasure like this one, where there's great definition of the eye sockets. You can actually see them outlined, and when I turn and show you from the side, you're going to be busy looking at her hair, but also take a glance at that nose, because it's got a wonderful shape and she's got a great smile and deeply defined features. Black hair again, and look at the feathering that goes all the way around her face, a little delicate feathering of hair, which gives it a much more realistic look. In this case, no pierced ears, but wait till you see this wonderful surprise at the back of her head. Look at that beautifully draped blue and magenta ribbon that's coiled all around the back of her hair and captures a chignon at the back. And then we continue turning it, and you can see that the ties of this scarf or ribbon come around the side of her head and cascade onto her front shoulders, and they are accented with a wonderful little gold touches here and there. A fabulous, fabulous doll with wonderful extra features. And staying with the variations on the theme, once again, another wonderful doll from the Mildred Adkins collection with, again, the rare brown hair. And as we turn her around, you're going to notice one thing, first of all. Look what else she has the first time I'm showing you one of these, the sculpted bodice. Not just the plain shoulder plate, but the actual collar, and there's a little glazed highlight to give it extra features, the little pink ribbon at the front, and then slowly turning her. Please look at this wonderful wide ribbon that's wrapped all around her hair with even definition of the draping of the ribbon. And if I turn it so you can see the top of the head, you can see a little more of the detail. And as you're looking at it, notice also that her ears are fully sculpted, although they're not pierced in this model. Variation on themes, once again. You could collect for a lifetime and probably not have all of the models that were made. In fact, most of them you'd never be able to find. Then we come to the back of her hair, and we have, her hair must have been down to here when she made a braid on it, because then she would take it up and look at those, you can just see how long that braid would have been before she coiled it up. And very, very fine definition of the braid itself that's done on the doll. And then coming around again, you can see this goes all the way around, deep comb marking on the hair, wonderful bodice, a very, very beautiful lady. This one in her size is really in kind of getting in the classic French fashion ladies, which were being made at the same time here now, notice. The emphasis were on lady dolls, and this one would be of a little more petite size that were made like them. The German dolls were not, unlike the French, the focus on the German dolls was on the head and on the hair decoration, whereas the French, the focus was more on the body. And so you don't have as many facial differences at this point because their focus was all about the costume, whereas the German dolls were probably, in many cases, simply sold as a head and then were furnished by the store or by the owner with a body and costumed by the store, a studio, or in the family home.